All right, Theory 2 students. I can't be there this Thursday. I have a recording session. But the show must go on. So if you remember, there is a quiz coming up on March 27th. So real quick, let's just do a quick overview of what is coming your way. Let me switch the, all right. Well, sorry about, all right, hold on a second here. All right, as you can tell, I'm still trying to get this video lesson stuff together, so thanks for your patience. At any rate, Unit 12. As you can see, you can find this slideshow with, you can see how bright it is with this monitor over here. I feel like I'm like a searchlight is on me. At any rate, so here's the PDFs. You can also find these in Google Classroom, but they're also in this slideshow. We're going to go through these in just a moment. We'll come back to this for the review for the quiz, which is March 27th. So that is probably when you're watching this is on a Thursday in class. So a week from today, we're going to do this quiz. I know it's a quick turnaround, but we got to get moving. There's a lot of stuff we need to get going if you want to go into composition and other things. So let's get it done. So as you can see, we're going to start with music theory. We're going to, sorry, you will literally read anything on that teleprompter. So music theory 2, unit 12. Let's go through lessons 47 through 50. Then we'll go through some of the homework examples that I've assigned to you, and then we're going to prep for the quiz. All right, let's get to it. We did this in class, but I'm doing it just in case some students couldn't make it that day. So when three or more notes are sounded together, the combination is called a chord. So as I've said in class, anytime you see these uppercase words, that is going to be something you're going to want to know. It seems like on the test they will usually talk about these things. So watch out for that. Just be aware. So a 3-note chord. So we covered intervals, which is 2 notes. So when you have a 3rd note, now you're dealing with a chord. And the ones that they're talking about is a root, a 3rd, and a 5th. So they're named. So the root is the root. The 3rd is a interval of a 3rd above the root, and the 5th is 1. See if I can get my cursor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty self-explanatory, hopefully. The root of a C triad is C. When the triad is in root position, it will include every other note. All the notes will be on. Okay, so they're just talking about when you stack thirds. A quick way to recognize that you're stacking thirds is they stay on the same thing. So if they're on the spaces, they'll all be in the spaces. And then when you go over to here, they all are on the line. So that's usually a quick clue when you're looking at a glance that is a triad. This will change as we get into inversions, but we'll save that for next unit. So they're just kind of getting you in the game. All right, so let's build triads using each of the following line notes as the root. Name the root note. All right, so we're in treble clef. We know that's a G. And then we're just going to go in here like so. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I got an iPad, so I can go ahead and do stuff like this. I'll come back and name all these. But the idea is, again, we're just stacking the thirds. Stacking the thirds. This will be interesting. So we're going to have to add ledger lines for this one. Because this is an F, you want to make sure. And be extra careful when you're doing this. So sometimes if you kind of do the line that line right here technically still goes through it, but you want to see daylight on either side, if that makes sense. So this could be confused for. You would never put a line above if it was above the staff. The only time you would put a line above if it was below the staff. But the point I'm getting at is just be careful with the penmanship. Make sure if you are putting a ledger line through the note, that you can clearly see. I'm calling it daylight, but just make sure it's in the center of the circle. Alrighty. And then last but not least, here's this one. And then we have a line here. Sometimes I draw the line first. I don't want to overanalyze that. Just kind of, use your own judgment. Imagine if it was somebody else that had to read this. Be honest with yourself and ask the question like, is this legible, or could this potentially be confusing? Let's name the notes. So every good boy does fine. Every good burger deserves fries. So those are the lines. We got E. This is a burger. Middle C. F. And on this one, they're not talking about the quality of the chords. Like, I know that's a D minor. I know that that's a B diminished. But we'll get there. Right now, on this sheet, they are just trying to get you to think about basic, the basic terminology: root, third, fifth. Build the following ones using the space. So same deal here. I'm going to just, if they're on the spaces, you keep it on the spaces. Realizing, God, it's just faster just for me to draw these than it was to do the copy and paste. That happens sometimes. You think you're finding a shortcut, but so you see there where I'm making sure that line is not going into the circle. We want to avoid any kind of confusion with that kind of stuff. So, and then zooming back out, I know we are in bass clef, so that is going to be all cows eat grass or all cars eat gas. That one's kind of becoming dated now with all the electric cars, so I guess we'll have to. But I think cows still eat grass for the most part. Let's call it grass-fed beef or whatever. All right, so E, A, C, F is below. We got a G and D, I believe. Yes. All right. I'm not as quick on my bass clef reading. All right. Add two notes above or below to create the triad and root position from the given third or fifth. So you got to work backwards. So if you remember, we had three notes. We had the root, the third, and the fifth. So when they're telling you this the fifth, you're going to add the third and the root. This is the third, so you're going to add the root and the fifth. I'm going to clean this up, practice what I preach. So that was a little bit, could potentially be confusing. So I wanted to take extra care. See right there, that line's barely, I'm probably overthinking this, but if I'm going to get on you guys, I need to set a good example. You see where I'm trying to get that line to go right in the center. We don't have to get too crazy about it, but just watch out for that. So that's a third, so we're going to put the fifth and the root underneath it. This is the third, so put the root, the fifth, that root. It's kind of, let's try it again. So this brings up a good point. When you're doing the tests, please do it in pencil. And it's a drag whenever you make a mistake with ink and you have to cross it out, and the page just looks like a mess. When you have to grade over 20 tests, believe me, it gets to be a drag. So please and thank you. Please write this stuff in pencil. All right, and then we just name the root. So kind of what happened on last test. We got to read directions, right? So don't forget to name the root. D, C, G, F. Not worrying about the quality of the chords. We're just naming the root. Yeah, name the root note. B, E, C, A. Is that right? Treble clef. All right. Well, you'll let me know in the comments or shoot me an email if I get any of this stuff wrong. I'm kind of trying to move through it. All right, let's keep going. So now that we got the basics, all right, big thing here. We're talking about primary major triads, which is going to be the 1, 4, and 5 chord as they get into it. Let's read through this. Most important triads of the key are built on the first, fourth, and fifth scale degrees of the major scale. They are called the primary triads or primary chords of the key and are identified by Roman numerals. So that's a big one, especially in classical analysis. If it's a country gig, or I've even had to do like a Chinese New Year gig where I had to read some pop charts for like some Chinese pop artists, and they were using I guess we call Arabic numbers. Hold on, let me check that real quick. Yes, okay, just wanted to double check that. Yes, so the numbers we use are called Arabic numbers. We're going back to Roman numerals. Shout out to the Roman Empire. All right. These triads are contained every note in the major scale. So that's kind of interesting. Between three chords, all the notes of the major scale are represented. So there's two ways that they talk about constructing a major triad. So check that out. That's kind of an important deal. Just like, if you're working on cars, or if you're like, maintenance guy, you don't want just a hammer. You want a screwdriver. You want all the tools that you can have. So we have different ways of thinking about triads and things in theory. So, you never know where one mode of thought is going to have an advantage in a particular situation. So the first one is kind of what we did on the last sheet, where you're building the root to the third. Everything's measured from the bottom up. So the bottom note, so major third plus a perfect fifth. Hence, like kind of what we were doing on the last sheet. We were just saying the third and the fifth. Well, now they're clarifying it because we're getting into a quality of a chord. So it's a major triad. So specifically, that major triad is going to have a major third. All right, we'll get into that as we get into secondary triads and stuff like that. That's going to be next unit. For now, we're just worried about 1, 4, 5. So there you go, the key of C major. They've spelled that out for you. All right, the second way of thinking about a major scale, and this is kind of how I was taught, is that you think of stacking two types of thirds. So add the interval of a minor third on top of a major third. All right, so the C to E is a major third. And then E to G would be a minor third. All right. Primary triads in the key of C. So they just did it in bass clef, they did it in treble clef. All right, let's boogie. Build the primary triads in root position for each scale by adding two notes to the first, fourth, and fifth notes of each scale to complete the triad. Name each triad. Okay, so they don't want you to write every single one. We're just focusing on the primary triads, 1, 4, 5. Think of a country song. That's an old joke about country music. It's like 3 chords in the truth. So many like blues song, folk songs, country songs are just made up of these primary chords. We even say like, yeah, it's a 1, 4, 5 thing. Like whenever I was doing country gigs, and we wanted to say like, yeah, it's pretty simple progression. It's just 1, 4, 5. So hopefully everybody knows what this key signature is at this point. So that is a G major key signature. And then C. Build the primary triads in root position. Yeah, remember root position from last one. By adding two notes. Name each triad. So let's see. I'll be okay with just the letter. I mean, maybe they want you to write major, but they didn't really give us space, so I'm inclined to think that they're just looking for the letter, and that's how it would be anyways. Like the letter by itself, it's assumed that it's major, until like we modify it with like a diminished or like augmented, or like a minor. Which you know me, I'm a stickler for putting the line over the M just to clarify. All right, so again, so that was bass clef. And they want us to do the same thing in treble clef. So you're going to write in the notes. G, C, E, G. That's a C chord. D, F sharp. Ugh. Practice what I preach here. And this one's going to, oh, what a mess. Come on. I apologize for my penmanship. I need to set a good example for you guys. There you go. Oakley dokley. So same deal. That was G major. This one is, I'll give you a second. I'm going to take a sip from my Kirkland signature. All right. If you guessed F, you are correct. Let's fill these in. The primary triads of F major are going to be F, B flat, because you notice you still have the B flat over here, and C as Can't write today. All right. Same deal, stacking the thirds. Hold on. There we go. That looks like, that's more like it. F, B flat, C. Okay. Oy. Write the primary triads in root position for each key. Name each triad. So, D major. So we're going to write out a D major scale. Hopefully at this point you're getting pretty quick with that. B, C sharp, D, right? So we go with the, change the color here. I'm feeling like Khan Academy, doing all those math problems for changing the color there. So, so D, G, and A. We're in bass clef, so let's see here. A D is going to be right there. Good burritos don't fall apart. Let me erase this here, kind of a little messy. There we go. We could put G up here, but just to avoid the ledger lines, make life simple, we can go down here and go down there. That makes it nice and clean looking. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing. Okay, yeah, they're just doing the same thing that we were doing before. Write the primary triad in root position for each key. Name each triad. Okay. Same deal here. I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna write D. And the thing is, if they have a key signature, you don't need to write, D sharp and stuff like this. They've already done the work for you. If this was not here, then yes, you would want to write in the accidental. So, but since they did give you a key signature, that makes it even easier, which is the whole point of a key signature, is to make life easier for us. There we go. D, G, A. Alrighty. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, let's see here. Key signature, I'll give you a second. I'm going to take another sip. Okily dokily. So that's going to be B flat. So if you remember on the flats, it's the second to last flat tells you the key. You have to memorize that one flat is F, but after that, flats should be pretty easy. Hopefully at this point in class. Flat, E flat, F. Did I do this right? Ooh, yes, I did. Okay, great. B flat, D, F. All right, I'm going to cheat here. All right. So that's this page. So primary triads accomplished. Let's go on to the next page. This one's a little weird because they don't give you any questions, but I promise you, you're going to need to know all these names for sure for the test. So I might, let's kind of talk through these, and then I'll maybe give you like a visual that kind of help out. So we talk about the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Well, they have alternate names, scale degree names, right? I typically, in my world, in the jazz world, we don't really use these terms, but they're still important to know. As I always say in music theory class, a lot of this stuff, you're probably not going to use the vocabulary that much outside of academia. As a matter of fact, you may not want to use these terms because, they won't let you on the tour bus. You're going to bum everybody out. So, but you want to be the person that's quietly competent. So just because you may not want to use these words or, you can kind of sound a little pedantic given the context. It's still good to know this stuff because sometimes there are people out there that will try to weaponize this stuff in a way to make you feel like lesser of a musician or like, like they have status above you. So at the very least, if you're not going to use these terms, be familiar with them so you're not intimidated by them, and therefore not intimidated by people that try to use that stuff on you. You know, I wish it wasn't that way, but I certainly know the type. So tonic. Tonic is the one. And you can see where they have the Roman numerals next to all this stuff. So the tonic is the one chord. Dominant and subdominant is a fifth above. And so the dominant is a fifth above. The subdominant is a fifth below. So let's see here. Let's see if I can get a visual aid. A new window. Let's see. Blank. Yes. All right, let's make it simple. Let's say C. I like red for some reason. Okay, so, you know, this is embarrassing. See, there we go. So a fifth above, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the dominant. Now, if I were to take this same thing and go the same distance below it, that is going to be F. So we got a C, we got a G, we got an F. So F is the subdominant. Submarine, you know, I don't know, whatever. You know, look up the word sub. Subdominant means, what'd that be called? A prefix? All right. And before I go back to the sheet, actually, I think we had a split view. Yes, okay. Now this gets a little weird for whatever reason. I'm still getting my iPad chops. All right, yes. This may not work. All right, so it's dominant, subdominant, and then important. The name of the scale degrees were derived from an arrangement in which the tonic was the central note. The subdominant it was given because it's the distance below the tonic. The dominance is above the tonic. It's not called subdominant because it's below the dominant. Okay, so they're just trying to say, like, yeah, an easy misconception would be, you know, you got your tonic. I gotta get rid of this. All right, that's not working. All right, so you got C. I'm just saying, like, okay, you have your tonic, you have your dominant, and then your subdominant would be right beneath it. That's just how it works out whenever you move this F, you know, which would be a fifth below. The dominant is a fifth above. You know, fifth, a fifth. So if I take this note and move it up an octave, it can be a misconception. But it comes from C being the center of the universe. So going back to our standby, millennial dealing with technology. Give me a second. And we're back. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I might be over explaining this stuff, whatever, you know. You can always speed up the video if I'm boring you. So median and submediant, same concept. It's you know, if I'm going back to, let's see here. So going back to our example of C, a mediant, you could think of it as like, you know, in between, right? Medium. So just like we were saying, you had the root, you had the fifth, and then there was the third in between it. So this guy is the mediant. And just like what we did with a fifth above being the dominant and a fifth below being the subdominant, the third below is going to be a submediant. So as it would be E, that would be A in the key of C. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can add this to my music theory. Yes. All right, so that way I don't have to drive you guys crazy here. Okay. The tone below the tonic, midway between the tonic and the subdominant, is called the submediant. Submediant is the sixth scale degree. All right, it's given the Roman numeral 6 and a C major A. All right. Supertonic and leading tone. So the supertonic, like Superman, you know, it's just above the tonic, right? So I don't have to draw this. You can kind of see. There you go. Supertonic is just one note. Mediant because it's halfway between that and the dominant. But the leading tone, this is, they're going to be talking about the subtonic, which would be, so this is a whole step. C to D is a whole step. B to C is a half step. You know, like how I always do this caret thing, business between when we were doing major scale. So, but if I made that a B flat, that would be a subtonic. So, which they talk about right. Leading tone is most often used since the note has a strong tendency to lead to the tonic, as it does. All right, let me clarify that. Maybe they're saying subtonic is the same as a half step. Let me double check. Okay, according to my my Google research here, the subtonic is the seventh note of a natural minor scale, which would be a whole step below. So yeah, again, if they're going to share that supertonic, subtonic, they need to be the same distance, right? There you go. Hopefully that makes sense. Leading tone is a half step because it leads your ear. It's that half step has a strong pull. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You kind of feel that release, you know. Versus like a subtonic would be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do, te, do, ti, do. That half step has a little bit more pull. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so just a bunch of fancy names here. So they give it to you in two different forms. Like this would probably be the most common. They would just list the scale: tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediate, leading tone. But kind of setting C major to be the center of the universe here, like so, I think it gets easier to see where these names come from. So supertonic is above, the mediant, and the dominant. So you need to learn these, and then these are just subdominant, submediate. Leading tone's a little different, but you know, it's a little brute memorization, but hopefully understanding where these names come from makes it easier to remember. Once you kind of understand where the terms are coming from, they're pretty logical. So all right. So that takes care of these. Very important to learn these terms. I believe as I'm looking at your quiz, yeah, literally seven of the questions deal with these terms. So you're going to need to know them. All right. Let's go on finally. All right, so we talked about primary triads. A common thing that you'll do with a dominant chord is we're going to add another third. So we stack a third, and then finally another third. That gives you a dominant seventh. In many pieces, dominant chord is used instead of a 5 dominant triad to build a 5/7 chord. Add a minor seventh above the root of the triad or a minor third above. So going back to this idea, like two ways of stacking chords. You can look at everything as just kind of being measurements from the root, right? A third above the root, a fifth above the root, a minor seventh above the root, or you can stack thirds. So it was like, you know, major third, and then minor third, and then another minor third on top of that. You know, depending on, you know, I would think a visual instrument like guitar or piano, being able to see the intervals from one to the other might be helpful. Maybe it's a little bit more abstract if you're on a horn or like singing. So I don't know. Well, maybe if you're singing, you might do ear training where you train your ear to hear intervals. But I digress. So the point is, you need to understand both terminology, as those are questions on your quiz. Yeah, so they'll ask a question like a major third plus a blank equals a major triad. So what they're asking is a major third plus a blank is going to make equal a major triad. So, let me go back here. So yeah, right there. So a major third plus, you know what? I apologize. I'm having to learn the test too. So a major third plus a perfect fifth is going to be a major triad. And then, okay, then they have a question that says, another way to form a major triad is by adding the interval of a blank on top of a major third. So right here, folks, that is a test question. Right here, that is a test question. All right. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you. I know you're super busy, so no excuse to miss these questions. All right. Get it done. Going back to our dominant chord. Same deal. Dominant plus a minor seventh, or a dominant plus a minor third on top. Those are two different ideas. Often the fifth of the seventh chord is omitted. The 5-7 chord then would have the same number of tones as the 3 and 4 chords while still retaining the quality of the chord. So yeah, that's a common thing, especially in guitar. If you have me in jazz guitar, you understand shell voicings. Same principle. It's like, imagine like you have 3 singers. You know, unless one can sing 2 notes, unless they're like Leah Hathaway, they only can sing 1 note at a time. So if you want to do a 5-7, the note they're going to choose to get rid of is the 5th, and that's exactly what they did here. I'm trying to see if that's a. I don't think they asked that on the test. At any rate, okay. Write a 5 chord for each key. Write the key name and the letter name of each chord. All right, so going back to the idea of directions, right? That's like 3 tasks. So write the 5 chord for each key, write the key name and the letter name of each chord. So let's start with the key. Okay. They kind of conveniently set that up on top. So one sharp, we know that's G, we know that's F, we know that's B flat, and we know that's D. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now write the letter name of each chord. Well, if we know that the dominant chord is the 5th note of that key, we're just going to count up from G. So G, A, B, C, D. So that's going to be a D. F, G, A, B flat, C. It's going to be a C7. So we want a 7 chord here. As you can see, they did that. B flat is B flat, C, D, E flat, F. So that's going to be an F7. D, E, F sharp, G, A, A7. All right, so that takes care of the letter name of each chord. Now we just need to write the 5 chords. So we just stack thirds. Again, we have a key signature, so we don't have to worry about adding all this stuff. You don't have to worry about the notes. If you see there's a key signature, the work is done for you if it's a 5 chord. You know, all this stuff is diatonic at this point. So yes, in the future there might be a situation where you have to write an accidental, but for now, super easy. Hopefully. Stacking the thirds. F7 is F7. Yes, and they wanted, yeah, just double checking they didn't want you to omit the 5th. Omit the 5th. All right, so there's that guy. All right, fill in the missing notes of the following 5 chords. Which interval did you add? So they're kind of reinforcing this idea is they're adding the 5th in all these. You can kind of see. So if we go here, root third, the 5th is missing. So we're going to write that in. And then the 7th. Same deal here, same deal there. Da, 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 da. Okay. Fill in the missing notes in the following. All right. Okay, the 5th. If you want to get technical, you can say perfect 5th, but a 5th, you know, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Write the following 5-7 chords with the 5th omitted. Include the accidentals. All right, so this is important. They are not giving you a key signature. So now you have to kind of think backwards. So F7 is going to be the 5th note. So F is going to be, so if this was like F, go 4, 3, 2, 1. What note is here? We know that that's a B flat. So hopefully knowing that's a B flat, you know that like E flats are going to be flatted. That goes back to your key signature. Whatever you got to do. Maybe you have to write out the scale, whatever you got to do. So C major is going to be, or C is going to be the 5th of 4, 3, 2, 1. So if we go backwards, C, C, B, A, G, F. So we know that's going to be an F major. Oh, sorry. Duh. we're going to omit the fifth, and we know that is a B flat because there's a B flat in the key of F. G is the fifth note of C, so this is easy. No key signature there. We just got to write the dots. Oh. Again, we are omitting the fifth. There we go. D7 is the fifth of G major. So that's going to give us an F sharp, C natural. A7 is the fifth of D major. So that's going to give us a C sharp. All right. I think that does it for the handouts. All right, so that's a pretty good workout. How are we doing here? About 35 minutes. All right. Well, it's gonna be a longer video, but we got to get through it. All right, so let's talk about the homework a little bit. We'll do a couple of those, and then we'll review for the test, and that'll probably put us right about 50 minutes. Okay, so as always with homework, let's see if I can get this a little bit bigger on your screen. I give you unlimited tries because to me it's all about the reps, and you learn from mistakes, right? So try to fail as fast as possible. That's the advantage of the technology. So you are in charge of knowing all these different chord identification. All right, so I kind of jumped ahead, but it's good for you. You can look this up online. So chord identification, check it out. So here's a quick crash course. Let's go to the iPad real quick. Get a blank page. Just make sure that's there. So the good news is if you can do the homework, you're double covered. So, okay. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 would be the same. So just a thing you're going to memorize at some point. If I were to stack thirds, like C, E, G, and then I keep in the key of C major, it would look like this, right? F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F. All right, so this is going to be a minor, 3 minor, 4 and 5 are majors, 6 is minor, and 7 is a diminished. All right, and that's just something like you'll just memorize over time. That's kind of like, it's just one of those theory things that you'll memorize and you'll know the pattern. So going back to our homework, let's apply that, to kind of give you a shortcut, so to speak. So we are in the key of, if you remember, the last sharp goes up a half step to C sharp. G is what triad of C sharp? C, D, E, F, G. It's the fifth. What's the name of the fifth? The dominant. So we know that it's going to be, the 5 chord is always a major. All right, we're in the key of B. So A sharp goes up to B. Here's a dead giveaway. The only chords that are going to have 4 notes at this point are a dominant 7. So hopefully that is a gimme. All right. But if we wanted to work through it, we know that this is B. B is down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5 chord, the dominant. Oh, wow, they're really giving you the tough key signatures here. All right, so C sharp, that is an A for bass clef. So that is the 6th note of C sharp. And if you remember, what was the 6th? It was minor. Believe it or not, that's supposed to be an M. I'm always getting on you guys for putting the lines above it, so I need to practice what I preach. There you go. So we know that's going to be a minor triad. Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. So on and so forth. Let's do a couple more. All right, D major, that's going to be an E triad in the key of D major. So E is the 2nd note. What is the fancy name we gave for the 2nd note? the supertonic. I know this is, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this stuff interesting, but some of this stuff is just, you know, I know it's boring, but you still got to know it. So supertonic, that's the second note of the major scale. That's going to be a minor triad. D flat major. Okay, with flats, you go to the second last flat, the penultimate flat, if we wanted to be super fancy. There you go. We're in bass clef. That's a D flat. All right. So this is going to give us a, what is that? That's an A. So A is the fifth note of D flat. That is going to be the dominant. Not the dominant seventh, because we would add an extra note up here. So that's just going to be a major triad, because the dominant is a primary triad. It's major. Another C sharp. All right, so C sharp, that's an E. That's the third note. That's going to be the mediant. That's always a minor. What do we got here? C sharp. All right. So we're in the key of C sharp. This is a B sharp. You don't have to worry about, you just know that like the seventh, you know, if there's no accidentals, if you're stacking thirds, you're creating a triad built based off the seventh scale degree, that is going to be a diminished. Oh, fun, fun, fun. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of the identification. And, you know, the idea is you want to be quick, right? So just to kind of show you what this should look like, you want to aim for. You want to be able to like look at this stuff. All right, I'm in the key of F, so that's going to be a minor triad. That is the sixth chord, so that's going to be, no, hold on a second. G flat, that's the tonic. It'd be really embarrassing if I missed this stuff with you, but this is a B major, that's a D, so that's going to be a minor triad. It's the three chord, the mediant. A flat, that's going to be the sixth chord, the submediant. Remember, it's tonic, leading tone, submediant. You know, a third above was mediant, a third below, submediant. So root 7/6, submediant. That's going to be a minor triad. All right, so you get the idea here. Let's go to the other homework assignment. Let's see, classwork. Chord construction. All right. Looks like some people have already turned it in. Very nice. So diminished triads. So judging. So you're going to have to think this way. We know that that note is an A. So let's talk about let's just start with what an A major triad would be. So if you think of the, you know, A, B, C sharp, D, E, you know, for this stuff, you only have to think up to the fifth. So let's take, so that right there, there's your major triad. If they want a diminished triad, so let me kind of give you a crash course here. Major would be 1, 3, 5. Augmented, sometimes they'll put a plus mark. That's going to be 1, 3, sharp 5. Minor, it's going to be 1, flat 3, 5. And diminished, it's going to be 1, flat 3, flat 5. All right. That is a terrible looking 5. All right, come on now. There we go. So we start off with the major and then we modify it, right? That's kind of what this thinking goes along. So we're going to flat that C, so now that's going to become a C natural. We flat the E, that becomes an E flat. Okay, let's go back to our thing. So C natural, we're good to go there. Let's turn that into a flat. Oh, sorry. Hey, how are you? There you go. All right, so I see how they're doing. They're not giving you a key signature. So it's a little bit extra work, but it's going to be good for you. We know that a C triad is going to be, do a couple of these, might as well do it right. Let me see, let me clear these out. So C major is going to be C, E, G. That's easy. There's no key signature. So remember, a minor triad is flats the third. So we got C, E flat, C. All right, G. Let's go back to our this guy. So we flat the middle note, the E. For a minor triad, yes. Major triad, okay. So think of an E major scale, E, F sharp, G sharp. So need a G sharp. A, B. All right, so that's a major triad. You're good. Augmented triad. All right, this is an E because we are in bass clef. So we just did an E major triad, E, G sharp, and B. But an augmented triad, if you remember, an augmented is going to be U sharp the fifth. You take a major scale or major triad and you sharp the fifth. So our major triad was E, G sharp, B. To turn it into an augmented, we're going to turn that into a B sharp. Someone might ask, why wouldn't we just call this a C? Well, in theory land, a C is equal some kind of sixth. All right. So to be precise, it's going to be a minor sixth. So whereas a B sharp, E to B sharp is going to be an augmented fifth. I know. It's just stuff you need to know. Like the actual the numerical aspect of an interval is all about the letter name. So if you're talking about a fifth and you're in the key of E, they want to see some kind of B. Whatever that fifth is, it needs to be a B. All right, even though you would probably write C on your chart. Okay? G sharp, B sharp. That's a low one. Major triad. All right. A, B, C sharp, D, E. So that's why we want to be quick with our major scales, right? Slow theory equals no theory. I've said that till you're sick of it. I'm sure you're sick of it. I'm going to still say it, though. It's my job. Augmented triad. We just had an A major triad. We sharp the fifth. Boom. Diminished triad. All right. We know that. All right. Let's go back to our. I just realized this whole time you couldn't see these things. Oh, well. Millennial dealing with technology. We had an E. All right. So that's going to be an E. We had our E triad. So we know diminished is going to be. Ooh, what a terrible diminished. It's going to be 1 flat 3 5 5. E, we flat the G sharp, it becomes a G. We flat the B, it becomes a B flat. All right, back to our all right, so I think you get the idea. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, you know me, I'm pretty lax with late homework. I want you to have it turned in because I know if you fall behind, it can be kind of tricky. And it can be really hard to dig out of that hole. So while I do accept late work, I really encourage you you got to stay on top of this stuff. Otherwise, especially as the end of the quarter, things get crazy with concerts. You'll be doing 1.5 million things. You're not going to want to be having to make up old music theory, homework to bring your grade up. All right. Okay. Let's review for the quiz. So the first eight questions on your quiz are all about vocabulary and kind of more or less. So the first one is going to be a chord consists of blank or more notes sounded together. So let's go back to our study guide. I believe that was in the first one. So a chord is when 3 or more notes are sounded together. So that's kind of important. Watch out for that. All right, question number 2. A triad consists of a root, a blank, and a blank. So there you go. Again, back to our vocabulary. A root, a third, and a fifth. All right. If the root of a triad is D, the fifth is what note? So, all right, so we have D. That's our root. And we know that a triad is made up of root, third, and fifth. So, I guess it's a little too low. So we know that that's going to be F sharp, and that's going to be A. So the fifth is the note A. They're just looking for, there you go. If the third of a triad is, I'm going to switch these up because I want to make you think. So I'm going to use the same format of the question. So if the third of a triad is E, so they're going to say the third equals E. They want to know the root equals, the third, E, D, C. So it's going to be a C. All right. The primary triads are built on the following notes of the scale. I believe that is going to be the next primary triads are... Oh, hey, how are you? So right there, boom. The most important triads of the key are built off the first. All right. They are called the primary triads. All right. So they're going to have multiple choice. You're going to want to pick the Roman numerals. And here's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking there. They're not doing lowercase numerals. It's all uppercase Roman numerals. You just need to know 1, 4, 5. Okay. All right. A major third and a blank creates a triad. So this is what I talked about earlier. So we already covered that. All right. In a major key, the primary triad are always... Let's see where they say it. Okay. Oh, yeah. The primary triads are major triads. All right. Because they consist of a root, a major third, and a perfect fifth. There you go. So all this stuff is hidden in these sheets. I know it's a lot of information, but, you know, it goes back to the idea. You've noticed like everything that's uppercase, that's usually fair game for a test, the way this book works. Another way to form a major triad is by adding the interval of a minor third on top of a major third. So if you notice, we go here, the minor third is on top of a major third. Okay, and then they're going to ask you to write primary triads in a couple different keys. So basically what we did here, you're going to write the primary triads. So I don't know, try to, you know, I don't think they get anything crazy with the keys, but that might be a good practice for you. Like, I don't know, let's jump back to well, I'm not going to be able to write over that. So, but I don't know, just think of like different key you know, a good goal would be there's 15 key signatures, right? You would want to be able to write the primary triads of all those keys. It sounds hard, but really, you know, once you figure out what key you're in, you figure out the first, fourth, and fifth note, you just stack thirds. All right, then write the primary triads and the keys. All right, so you just got to write primary triads. That's going to be the next 2 questions. And then the next 7 questions are back to this guy. You need to know all these names. So if you're, you know, quick and dirty, just study this. These are explanations of that. I already went into gory detail, but really you just need to know this. So they're going to ask you, like, the 1 chord is also called the, all right, you know, I guess I got ahead of myself. That's where the names come from, but they're going to ask you in terms of scale tones. So the first, second, third, see if we can see it. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. So you're going to need to memorize them this way because they're going to ask you, like, what is the fifth? The 5 chord is also called the dominant. The 2 chord is also called the supertonic. The 1 chord is the tonic. What's the 7 chord? Leading tone, or the, you know, it's a little misleading because they say the chord, even though these are like, you know, they're talking about a scale degrees here. So that could be potentially confusing, but we talked about it here, so hopefully you know what they're talking about. They're going to say, hey, the 7 chord is also called the leading tone. The 6 chord is called the submediant, and I don't know. You just have to sit down and memorize this stuff. And then finally, you need to write the dominant 7 chords, including the accidentals. Okay, so it's going to be just like this question. Yeah, write the fall. It's going to be like this question here, but it looks like they want you to, they're not saying leave out the 5th. So you're going to basically write the full shebang bang like that. And you're going to need to work your way backwards. You know, they're actually all the exact same chords as here. So memorize that. It's a little bit of math working your way back. Whenever you see a dominant chord, you got to kind of think, all right, that's the 5th note of this, just like we worked through in the sheet. So other than that, I think that should take care of it. So, wow, 55 minutes. Well, it's a lot to cover. It's a whole unit. If we were in class, we cover it over 2 weeks. So, hopefully this helps out. I'm interested to see the test results with me presenting the information this way. You know, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. But once again, we have a quiz on the 27th. All right, get it done. Have a good one. See you later.